Hello. Today we're doing a tier list on the operators in Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, year 9, season 1, so when demos came out. I slightly edited the categories. I'm not going to do like S, A, B, whatever tier stuff. I'm making it pretty simple. Operators you absolutely must pick, operators who are always good, operators who are just good, situational operators, and operators who are just straight up bad. Like, you should not pick them at all. I'm gonna try to explain why for each. Obviously, I'm gonna have my opinions, and obviously, that may influence some stuff, but I'm going to try to use statistics in Pro League as well, because I do believe that the meta is always going to be defined by Pro League. So, nonetheless, I will be giving the most objective answer I possibly can. With that said, let's get into it. First operator we have is Deimos. I'll also try to explain my reason behind each operator to help assimilate newer players. So, the issue with Deimos is he's flexible. So I wouldn't even necessarily like. I don't like Deimos personally. I don't enjoy playing Deimos, but he's a very flexible operator. He has a 40 bullet, 40 bullet mag AR, which is like solid. He has a 2-shot DMR pistol that can open up patches. His gadget is free info at the click of a button, kind of like Lion on release. He has both frag grenades and hard bridge gadget, so he can play more passively, or he can just play aggressively, right? So there's just so many ways to like play him. He's kind of like Valkyrie, right? Where like you either play it selfishly to like get kills, or you play it to IGL or make callouts off of it, right? So like you can be on a roof as Deimos and just be like, hey, there's a guy here, and coordinate with your team if you're in comp like an IGL, and then just use Harbridge Gadget and like get a line of sight. Like Oregon Attic, for example, is a good example, right? You can just get the attic wall with a line of sight as well as the crouch hole, and then they can't really shoot you from there if you sit somewhere safely, and then you just use your scans to give info and your team works off of it, right? So I wouldn't say that he's necessarily even situational, because no matter what, you'll get some form of value from him. So I'll say good, but I'm not going to say always good, because there are certain situations, like there are better options. There's so many operators that there's always going to be better options. So I'd say it's good. Maybe I'll move it around towards the end when I like see everything, but that's kind of how it is. Sledge is situational, straight up. Mostly if they bring castle. Mostly if you bring like 3 vert operators. So, for example, you can bring Ram, Sledge, and Buck. Buck hard breach gadgets, so like your hard support plays Buck. And then your soft support plays Sledge with like grenades, right? Because you can blow stuff up. Or EMPs to work with the Buck. While Ram is fully focused on getting the easy verts from outside and holding flank. Like, there's multiple ways to play it, but situational. You're not going to be bringing Sledge every round, because frankly he's slow. His gun is mid. It's an easy gun. It's not a bad gun, but it's just mid statistically. His gadget is mostly going to be useful for castles, because you can just bring Buck or Ram for verts. Both of those are better. So he's just very situational. But I think that he's not like horrible. A lot of people think he's just bad now. I don't think so. He has both grenades and EMPs. And at the end of the day, his gadget's not horrible. Like, just whatever. Thatcher's weird because you don't see him brought often, but he's not even situational. He always gives you value, so I'd probably put him as in the good tier. And the reason I say this is because you can burn you can burn ADSs, you can clear utility, you can open up walls, you can use it selfishly to disable enemy crosshairs. You can do pretty much anything with Thatcher. But he's also not like an operator that like, oh, you just have to bring him. He's just like a good operator, but he's not like as situational as Sledge. Smoke. Smoke is pretty much always going to be a pretty good operator, but it's hard to justify him with how many good operators there are on defense. But I'd say you'll always be safe bringing Smoke. If you're a newer player, you'll be fine playing Smoke because you can set up sight. You have an SMG-11. You have 2 proxies you can throw out, and your gadget is useful late round if you're solo queue or play passively on site. So he's always going to be pretty good. The issue is he's also at the same time like situational. He's kind of both, right? He's always going to be good, but in certain situations, Goyo's going to be better. And it's kind of difficult through this tier list, right? Like Goyo's not always good. He's like situational / good. But then sometimes he's a lot better than Smoke, so that's just an example. So yeah, he's always a good operator, but kind of like hard to say that, you know. I'll put him in good because he's in between. He's either always good or like in certain situations he's not. So I'll just say he's good. Mute is an amazing operator. Actually, next guide I'm making, stay tuned. The next operator guide I'm making is going to be on Mute because he is so good. I just realized I can kind of mog. Anyway, Mute is genuinely always good. I think he has more value than Smoke at this current point. Because you have operators like Deimos, you have operators like Jackal, you have Dokkaebi, who's meta, all these operators I'm going to go over. Mute counters literally all of them. So if you bring a Mute every round instead of a Smoke every round on defense, you're probably going to have a better / more consistent time than if you like only bring Smoke every round, right? Like if you had to pick only one operator you could play for the rest of the time, Mute would be a great operator for that because he's in this current set of the meta always going to be good. Like always good. I will put him at must pick, but I don't think he's like an operator you just have to pick. I think you don't need to pick him, but he's always going to be good. Ashe is a weird operator. At the same time, Ashe is always good because you can entry, has a good gun, it's like 2 grenades and stuff. But then you have ops like IQ, who actually can do what Ashe can do, but also have another gadget. So the only real reason you would bring Ashe is for Miras, and once again it's a question mark of like, you know, you can also bring Cali for example, but it's like, why, right? Why, like, except for Miras, you don't really need Ashe. IQ will give you the same or more value, so it's hard to say that Ashe is always good when IQ is always good. Ashe is just good or situational, but I think that Ashe is something you can pick every round and still get away with, so I'd say good. Ashe is a good operator. Thermite, I think all the hard breachers are kind of situational to an extent. Let me bring them here. Let me just get the hard breachers out of the way. I'd say Maverick is not quite a must pick, but always good, for sure. Because no matter what, he'll always get the wall open, so if you need a hard breach, he's always going to be a good one. But I also think that he's not, you know, as useful in certain situations. Like, I'd say Hibana's situational for sure. And I don't think Hibana's bad. Hibana's good for hatches and for long line of sights, like Canto Repel. But I also feel like except for like 2 or 3 bomb sites, the other hard breachers are better in like every way. Like, unless you're getting hatches for either Oregon basement, Clubhouse basement, or Bank basement, Ace and Thermite are going to be more useful. I'd say Ace is pretty much always going to be useful. You have you have breaching charges, you can get verts. That's like the meta choice. You don't bring claymores. For Hibana, stuns are better because of how far back Ibana has to play. Thermite's probably going to be in the good section. And I'm biased because I think it's been unfair to say that. I think Thermite objectively is situational because certain breaches you want to be as big as possible, and it's harder to bandit trick Thermite than Ace or Hibana, but you can't bandit trick Maverick, obviously. So I'll leave it at that. Our next operator is Castle. Castle is situational. And I don't know how else to put it. He cuts off lines of sights, but every sight you can get away without needing a castle. Castle for pretty much every single site in the comp map pool. Once again, I'm thinking comp. Certain maps and ranked might have a meta with Castle. Personally, I don't follow it. But I think Castle is good for setting up specific strategies and therefore is too situational to put him as good or always good, because sometimes he's actually bad. Like sometimes you'll get that one random solo queue dude who goes Castle and Castle's off the most unnecessary shit. So that's why I'd say situational. Pulse, I'd even put higher. I'd say Pulse is a good operator. Sure, he gets more use in certain situations than others, right? But the upside of Pulse is that no matter what, his gadget's consistent. You will know where they are. You can still give info, and he's just going to be a reliable, consistent info. But he's not the best info giver. He's not like gonna just suddenly be like, oh hey, you need to pick Pulse every round. Like he's not the best info operator, but he's an info operator who's consistent, has a C4, and it's just like fun. Like I don't know, it's just good. Twitch I'd probably put in the same field. Maybe situational. I see a lot of teams use Twitch. I'm not a big fan. So I'll say situational because I think in certain situations you need to destroy util. But Bravo kind of does the same thing with a better gun and like more options. Normally, some teams bring both. Normally it's because you have 4 drones, so there's just more info. But I think depending on the situation, either a Brava or a Twitch are useful. So I can't really put one above the other, and I don't see Brava as being a generally like always good operator. I think Brava's too situational, and Twitch does the same thing as Brava, so it doesn't make sense to put her higher. So I'm gonna put both of them as situational operators. Montaigne is good. I'm not gonna say always good because I understand a lot of my viewer base is going to be more on the casual side of the game, which means like not comp, not pro league, not scrimming, like just ranked. Ranked is considered technically casual. No offense to any of my ranked warriors. But certain times in ranked or whatever, unranked, casual, Monty players will not always be good Monties. You can be a Monty player, but that doesn't mean you're a good Monty player. And if you're not a good Monty player, it's more of a detriment because you're basically playing a 4v5 rather than having a human drone who knows when or when not to play aggressively. So it's hard for me to say he's always good because in Pro League he's pretty much always good. Certain situations you probably shouldn't bring him, but he does have hard breach gadget, he has EMPs, he has smokes. Pretty much always good, but I can't say for most of my viewers that he's going to be good. But I will put him always good simply because I do want to orient a lot of my stuff towards a more like competitive audience, and I want more casual players to learn the meta of how it actually is supposed to be, if that makes sense. Doc is a interesting operator. Has a bailiff so he can set up sight, has an ACOG and a gig gun, and a very selfish gadget. Most of the time, most Doc players will use it selfishly, but can be used fairly okay. Now, I've seen him used a lot in Pro League. Like, there's a player who played him basically every round as a comfort pick. So whether or not he's situational or good is kind of a debate. I think he's never gonna hurt you. It's not like a blatant troll, but I also think there's gonna be better alternatives most of the time. But I also think there are operators like Thunderbird who are just a lot worse than Doc, but do the same like objective that I would put in situational. So I'd probably keep Doc here. Rook, I'd also put situational just straight up. While a lot of like, I'm very tempted to say he's actually like our first just straight up bad operator, but he does have one thing about his gadget that's really useful, and that's the fact that if a grenade blows you up, it will not instantly kill you. It will always down you. A grenade will always down you. If you don't get headshot, you'll always be downed. So for certain strategies, and you can self-revive, for certain strategies, Rook is actually pretty useful, especially when you're holding a suicide spot, like one spot of the map, very, very stringently. But I also think like 90% of the time there's gonna be better options, but it's not like it's just straight up bad. Like I don't think it's straight up bad. Glaz, kind of same thing, situational. It depends on the attack. If you're doing like a smoke plant type of thing, he's pretty good. Like he can be really, really good. But I also don't think he's good every round. A lot of time, most people aren't good with Glaz because of kind of the mechanical skill that Glaz requires. It requires very good aim. And because of that, I can't say he's always good because certain rounds there's just straight up going to be better options that do the same job. So I'll say that Glaz is situational. Same thing with Fuse. I mean, kind of all these operators are pretty situational, but I'll go more into detail with these two. I'd say he's Fuse situational, but he's actually not bad. He's genuinely not bad. He has a shield now, which right now shields are pretty strong. For certain attacks, you can get verts like Chalet, right? I think some of you guys might know. If not, if you go onto the K9 balcony double window, you can fuse the top left side like twice or 3 times, and the fuses fall down, and they get verts across all the basement site safely without even entering the building. But I also think in that same way, Ram can probably do that job better. So once again, it's kind of like you're choosing something that's okay in very specific situations because he also has like hard breach gadget and stuff, but there's probably going to be a better option for what the attack is. Capcan is actually good. Capcan is an operator that sets the pace, basically. It forces teams to play slower on attack, or else they run a risk of taking damage or, losing an operator. So it kind of like forces the enemy to lock in, which slows them down. So just because of that, he'll inherently have value if he's on the board because people are going to be more careful with him. But aside from that, he doesn't really offer much, and you can also bring operators that kind of do the same thing, like Legion or Ella or Thorn, that are going to be, if not equal, better. So because of that, I can't really say that he's going to be pretty much like the GOAT, I can't say he's like a great must-pick operator. Or I can't say he'll always be good, he's just like, he's a good operator, but there's might be better options. Tachanka is actually kind of what I mentioned with Goya, where like, depending on the situation, Tachanka might make more sense. Tachanka honestly isn't good for his actual utility. He's like a smoke, but you need to actually practice the lineup to get any use out of it because it's such a small area. And while it does more damage per second, I'm pretty sure, it's not enough to really warrant using a Tachanka over a smoke, despite possibly getting a safer angle onto, plant denial. The main reason you'd bring him is because his LMG can set up site in an instant, and if you have like a very heavy roam setup where only one person can stay on site and set up site, that person could be a Tachanka, have a shield, set up sight instantly, have a pretty strong gun, have a gadget that can be okay, and isn't going to be like a total toss. So depending on the situation, Tachanka is actually not a bad operator. Blitz, I have to put in the same field as Monty. I'd say Blitz doesn't have, like, look at it this way, right? Blitz and Monty are both shields. One of them you play very aggressively, one of them you play very passively. If you are a very aggressive player and you want to play a shield, you should probably learn Blitz because it encourages you to take close-up gunfights. You know, you flash them, etc. If you're a very passive, like IGL type of player, or a more supportive player, Monty will kind of favor you more. In the same way Monty has the EMPs and Harbridge gadget, Blitz just has smokes, and Blitz has another gadget I don't think makes sense. I don't remember what it is though. Breach charges, I think. So he's more of an explosive entry type of operator, so I can't really, like, you know, say that. IQ, unironically, might be the first must pick simply because she is probably the best entry operator in the game right now. And I don't know what other, like, attacker, like, ideally must pick would have 5 defenders, 5 attackers, right? Like, what would be the ideal lineup every round. But maybe not. Point is, IQ is always good, and there's not really much other, like, there aren't many other options you can pick for a entry, right? You can pick IQ or Buck, right? IQ or Buck, and I'd probably have both the IQ and the Buck, because of both of their versatility and flexibility. Basically, you take the idea of Ash being an operator that is a 3-speed with a good gun and 2 explosives. IQ has the same thing, except IQ also has a no recoil gun, so you can put a horizontal grip on it and be a 4-speed. So you have a 4-speed now with a good gun, 2 explosives, and you have an actual gadget which can tell you where the site is in case you don't know, what operators they have. You can ping the gadget so you can work together with Deimos and let them know, right? Because when you ping a gadget, they ping the operator too. And his gadget, her gadget for the current meta is very helpful. She can be played by like a flex IGL type of player where you go on a roof at a start round, see where there's a lot of utility and where there's no utility, and work off that, right? So IQ is pretty much a must pick in my opinion. You kind of have to play IQ, unless there's a specific situation like a Mira on the other team or something where you want to bring an Ash instead, right? But in most situations, you should be picking IQ as an entry. Or, I guess, as an aggressive player. Jaeger is situational. I don't want to say he's bad because I don't think he's just horrible. But his gun is not good. It's just not a good gun right now. His gadget has better alternatives in like every situation possible. Like, Wamai is better. Aruni is equal, if not like better because you can actually set up sight as well. Guns are better on her. One difference, she's a 3 armor, but once again, Jaeger's a 2 armor. So there's always going to be better options. I guess for certain situations, like if you want to run Aruni, Jaeger, and Vumai, he's going to be decent. Like, there's no operator that I can, like, he's not an operator you just will literally never bring. Like, there's no the only operator that was not picked at all in Pro League for an entire tournament was Thunderbird. And even then, I think you can make Thunderbird work, so I don't know if there's going to be any straight-up bad operators, actually, now that I think about it, but we'll see. Bandit's good. I don't know, I can't say situational because, like, there's always going to be a wall you might not want the enemy to open, but also certain times Kate is going to be better. but I don't think he's like situational enough to warrant being put under that situational class. And I also think that his loadout, speed, gun, everything is pretty good. So I can only say that he's good. There's not much else to go with that. With that said, now we're on to the actual like non-original operators aside from the few I moved up. Buck is a must pick. Buck is the most like perfect second entry / flex player type of operator right now. And what I mean by that, he's like the best to like go behind the IQ after IQ like scans everything, says what the setup's looking like. Buck is the guy who either goes in front or behind IQ and will basically be able to adapt to any situation. Can open up any lines of sight or walls because now he also alternatively has hard breach gadgets, which also allows him to be a hard support, meaning you can open up hatches, drone, play slowly. You have a great gun, ACOG, and then if you can both take close quarter gunfights with a shotgun because his gadget is a shotgun, so you can either like play really explosively close range. You can play long range because of ACOG, good gun with very controllable recoil, and great like stats, right? Gone 6 to get rid of utility, 3 flashes to burn out ADSs or my discs or whatever, right? Like he's so flexible, you can do anything with a Buck and it will be good. Like there's pretty much never an operator who's gonna be better than Buck for a situation. Except for like a very, very specific attack, so I can't really say that like you can go without having a Buck. Like I feel like Buck is always gonna be good. Frost is actually a good operator. I'm not even gonna say situational because no matter what, Frost forces. It's kind of like Capcan, right? But Frost kind of has a more. It's more scary because you gotta look behind under windows and. You can actually prevent someone from even jumping into a window if you put 2 frost mats under it. So Frost by like herself can completely stop an entry point. She has an ACOG, she has a no recoil gun. Sure, the stats on it kind of suck, but if you have good aim, it's a good gun because, like I said, ACOG, no recoil, it's a laser beam. And then she has a shield, which is going to be useful for certain setups / strategies. And she has a secondary shotgun to either set up upstairs, like in a different spot she's holding, or set up sight as a hard support, like smoke replacement type operator. So just because of that, I would say Frost is a good operator. I actually say Frost is always a good operator. Too much to like you're never gonna really have an issue with bringing Frost. Although I will say that I think there are better alternatives. Blackbeard's a good operator. This is probably my most controversial point of this video, and the whole issue with it is just that people like have this association that Blackbeard's just horrible. Blackbeard is literally it kind of the same idea as IQ. No recoil gun. His gadget is fully focused on taking gunfights, meaning like if you play correctly, they can't really do anything about you. Like, they'll try headshotting you, you just kill them first, right? Because you're swinging. And 2 explosives, which is what Ash has. So, he basically has what Ash has. His only downside is a worse gun, but his gadget makes up for it. So, he's basically on the same level as Ash, except he can't counter mirrors. Like, I don't know, he's really good. Valk is our next must pick. Honestly, I'm just like, this might be slightly biased, but I don't think so. I think Valkyrie is always a good operator. The reason I say this is she is probably the best just straight up full info operator. You got 3 Valk cams that you can hide. You have a C4 so you can play below. You can be selfish. You can sit on the camps to start around and give info for plays. You can swing off the cams, no recoil gun, put a horizontal grip on it, you're a 3-speed. Like, there's literally no downside to bringing Valk. There's also never going to be like an info operator that's going to be better than Valk. You know what I mean? Like, in certain situations, you might want Echo, but you can also have both the Valk and the Echo. You know what I mean? Like, it's really, really hard to say that Valk isn't a must pick for me. Capitao is a good operator. Capitao, kind of, to me, is like, he's either a good operator or an always good. I'd actually put him at always good. The reason why is this gadget is simple. It's either having 2 smoke grenades, which certain operators have. So he already has like smoke grenades, okay. He has EMPs, which will help the hard breach. Or he has hard breach gadgets, so he can be the hard breach for hatches or whatever. He has fires that push people out of suicide spots or prevent them from denying plant. Like, you don't have to actively cover it, right? Kind of like Nomad or Grim, more specifically. Kind of like the Grim gadget, plus you can deny lines of sight unless they have a Warden. 3 speed, no recoil gun, put a horizontal on it, you're 4 speed. Can play either more aggressively, like a second entry type of thing after execute, or you can play more of a hard support type of operator. Very flexible. You're never really gonna like have a downside to bring Capita. I wouldn't bring him every round, personally, but he's never like. I think there are gonna be certain sites where like there's gonna be maybe a better alternative, but I also don't think like if you bring him you're gonna like hurt yourself. You just might be like screwing yourself out of an easier way of doing things. Cav might be the first stopper. It's just straight up bad. She has a good gun, but realistically, if you want a selfish operator who's just focused on getting kills, you can just have a Vigil. You can have a Legion, a Mozzie, etc. Like, they all will be more useful and less selfish than Cav. And honestly, Cav's gadget doesn't do anything. Like, her active gadget is Silent Step, because most people in comp or like high level elo are gonna have good headphones that can hear Cav from like a mile away anyway. Like, I don't think I've ever been like straight up sneaked up upon by a Cav, only when like a Cav is ratting and I just don't feel like droning. Like, it's really hard for Cav to get much done against good players, so I would probably just put her in a bad category. I don't see a reason to put her any higher. There's like no real situation where I'd actually realistically bring Cav, especially in Pro League. Like, maybe if you want to like please the crowd or chop the other team's mental, but once again, just you'll find better ways to do it. Echo is situational. The thing is, I can't put him different than Maestro. Like, I feel like, well, actually, yeah, I can. I forgot Maestro's Bailiff. Yeah, Echo is situational. Depending on the strat, Echo is perfect, but Echo also has better alternatives. I think the current meta doesn't favor how Echo is played, especially with the 1.5 changes and less defenders having zoomed in sights, especially 1.5, which was such a like good middle ground. So I'd probably say Echo is situational. You're not gonna like he's not bad, but if IQ's picked every round, Echo kind of becomes nullified, so I wouldn't do that. Jackal's a hard one. You're never gonna like go wrong with Jackal, but I think it's just too easily countered by Mute, and like Cav actually can counter Jackal, funny enough. But I think like because you can have the like attacker repick, you'll kind of like know they have Mute, but then if you bring a Jackal despite them having a Mute, he's not always good technically. So I kind of have to put him good. He's a good operator, great gun. Good for roam clear, same with Deimos, right? Like, not a bad operator, but not as good due to Mute's prevalence now. Mira, I would have put in must pick 2 seasons ago, maybe even last season. Now I think she's just always good because Ash can counter her and Callie can. So now there's an actual counter to her. So that kind of sucks, but I still think that you're never going to go wrong with bringing like a Mira. Like there's no downside to it. You either just have a reinforced wall with like just a default setup or whatever, and you can just see through it, and then you can't, and you have to play it out normally. But then she still has a good gun, a C4, and a secondary shotgun to set up side. Like there's no downside to her. Ying is kind of a must pick now, and I kind of hate to say it because I don't like how Ying is used, right, guys? But it's just the unfortunate truth that statistically speaking, whenever Ying is up, she's brought most of the time, simply because she's like the meta right now on attack relies a lot on cheesing, so having like a Ying that will help execute and bait utility and cheese and annoy the enemy like the defense, that's gonna be a good operator. 81 bullets, annoying ass gadget, smokes, hard bridge gadget, not really much else you can want. You'll be able to fit her into your lineup at pretty much any point. Like, there's just no downside. Like, that's just an operator you just have to pick, really. Legion's an operator who's always good. He's kind of like a better Capcan. I'd put him at the same point as Frost. Secondary shotgun to set stuff up. No impacts anymore. The gadget got slightly nerfed, so probably wouldn't, put him at S tier, but always gonna be good and never gonna go wrong with the Legion. That simple. You can roam, you can anchor, you have a good gun. It's that simple. Zofia is good, actually. You can't really say she's situational. Like, most of the time you'll find someone that can, like, be better, but, like, I don't know. You're never gonna have an issue with bringing a Zofia, but at the same time, you probably shouldn't in a lot of situations. Like, you can, but people will be like, you can just go this guy instead, who's gonna be better for that situation. And because of that, it's kind of hard to, like, justify Zofia in certain situations. But Zofia has a good gun, has a useful gadget. It's like, she can be Ash plus has, like, 2 flashbangs that are remote activated and can give you info. Like, you can see if someone's in a room or not. So, Zoe's not bad. I can't say Zoe was bad. Zoe was just good. And I can't even say Zoe was situational because you can technically use her in any situation. Just, I personally wouldn't in a lot of situations. Like, I wouldn't always pick her. I think that there's going to be better options. Ella is situational. I think she's kind of like a worse Capcan. People aren't as scared of Ella, I think, because Ella is just not really a gadget that'll actually do damage to someone. Doesn't have a risk of instant death unless someone's playing near it. And you can kind of counter it, like, you can't obviously counter it without, like, shooting it or walking into it, similarly to, like, Fenrir. But it's just not going to be as annoying. And there's only 3 of them. Ella players, for some reason, like, the worst players play Ella who can't control the gun. She has a shield, that's nice, that's good for certain setups. But you're always going to have, like, a better alternative for a shield. Like, Frost is going to be more useful than Ella, and you have the same util, if not more, actually. So, I can't really justify an Ella pick in most situations, but for very specific strats, like a bank basement blue hold, I think she's fine. Dokkaebi is a must pick. So, see, we're already getting our lineup, right? Hard support, soft support, like flex, second entry, or all those are kind of like, switch around maybe in primary entry, either or. But you already have like 4 attackers who like will always be good, pretty much. I don't think we're saying more of them though. Well, anyway, yeah. Dokkaebi's kind of broken right now, just because of how the playstyle is. Like, she's countered by mute, but I generally think she's just always good. EMPs, good gun, good secondary gun, really easy gadget. You click a button, you're done. You can be on the other side of the map and you can help the rest of your team. Like, you can do so much with Dokkaebi. You can play aggressively, passively, long angle, short angle, good guns, 3 speed. Like, I don't know, there's just no downside to Dokkaebi, and I just personally think that, like, you're kind of trolling if you bring someone else instead of Dokkaebi for EMPs, unless it's a very specific strat. Vigil's underrated, he's always good in the current meta. Ignores line scams. Can't get Deimosed. Good guns. Boss G right now is cheesed as fuck. Like, not bad. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say he's always good, but he's good. Vigil is not a situational operator anymore. He used to be, but, like, with how many attackers there are and how the meta is, he's actually not bad. And I think the reason why is the meta is shifting to become more of, like, the same drone denial meta that it used to be, with, like, mute, vigil, mozzie, where, like, people just can't drone and scan. You know, mute's kind of used more, like, for power positions or certain, like, important spots that you want to move around in. Like, Dokkaebi calls Deimos, Lion, etc. So I think that he's generally just going to be not a bad operator now. I think Solsec similarly to that. So I can't say that Vigil's bad. I think Vigil's good. Goyo is... If smoke is good, I'd say Goyo's good. You're not going to really get hurt from ringing Goyo. He kind of does the same thing, except he gets to play more aggressively. So in some ways it's better, but if you want to set up sight like Smoke can, you have to bring the, like, DMR shoddy. So I'd probably say that kind of, like, puts him down on the same level as Smoke if you're going to bring the Vector with an ACOG. So I'd probably say they have trade-offs, but both are about as good. Lion, you don't necessarily get hurt from being a Lion, but I think the fact that he got frag grenades instead of EMPs now kind of put him down more towards situational. But I don't think, like, I think, no, if you bring him, no matter what, you're gonna get some util out of him, while, like, in certain situations, like if you bring Rook, you might not really get anything out of it, so I'd probably have to put him on good. Finka is always good, pretty much. Good gun, flashes. I think she has gone 6. Maybe grenades now. LMG is back, you know. Gadget that's helpful for the team with just one click. She's never going to be a bad pick for the lineup. She's just going to be always a good operator. Maestro is, like, in between Valk and Echo. Like, he's good, but I don't think he's, like, always good. Like, I think in certain situations, it just doesn't make sense to bring a Maestro because his whole gadget is kind of like Echo. Like, it's a slightly buffed Echo. He has 3 cams now. You need an explosive to destroy them. You have to be on the gadget still to use it, just like Echo. Bailiff that can also make rotates and stuff. 80 bullet gun, better gun, basically. Like, he's just a slightly better Echo. Well, a better Echo. But it's not like... His fundamental gun does not, like, give that much to his teammates, aside from info. Like, his fundamental utility and playstyle. So you either have to stay alive, which can put your team in a detriment at times, or, yeah, stuff like that. So I say it's good. Alibi. Alibi's not a bad operator. But, is she what she used to be? No. She used to be known for a gun, 1.5, sight setup, and shield. She has none of that anymore, and therefore it's just situational. She has an okay gun, she can set up off sight if you need it, and the gadget can be useful if you put it in front of windows so you can scan the enemy and, like, just know where it's coming from. Other than that, not really much use. I don't think she's horrible. I can't put her at like the same level as Cav, but not nearly as good as she used to be. Clash, I want to say bad because I just don't like her playstyle, but I know how useful Clash can be, especially in a competitive setting, so I just kind of have to say that Clash is situational. Because in certain situations she is useful, but it's kind of like a Monty on defense, except on defense it's harder to win a 4v5, I feel. Well, not really, but I don't know. I just feel like Clash is a slightly worse Monty on defense. Not really much else to say about it, but I think in certain situations she's okay. So I'd say she's situational. Nomad is a good operator. Nomad's always like, okay. 3 flashes, decent gun, holding off cutoffs, making stuff annoying. Not gonna be always a good option, but she's good, she's solid. You can't really go wrong with her. I wish they would give her something to make her more favorable over Gridlock, which I'll get to soon. But she's good. She's good chat. Kate is going to be in the same tier as Bandit, kind of the same idea. But I'd say that Kate actually is a bit higher because you can also get hatches, so I'd say he's always good. Like, if you always want Wall now for some extent, he's always going to be a good option. Bandit is going to be better in certain cases, like if you're bandit tricking, so he leans a bit more towards situational, but Kate's always going to be good. Gridlock is... I have to say always good, honestly. Gridlock basically has the same thing as Nomad, except the gadget actually does damage, so there's like... It's harder to bait it. There's no sound cue and it doesn't like stop them from shooting you, so if they impact, they can catch you off guard. But she has 4 of them, so more flank coverage than Nomad. Can cover sound for a plant execute. Has EMPs, has frag grenades, has a secondary shotgun, has a gun that's much better than Nomad's. There isn't really much downside, but I don't think that her playstyle is like very good for the meta. However, the best NAL team, so the best North American team, which at the moment is Beast Coast, had the best use of Gridlock that I've seen. Like, they love Gridlock. They would bring Gridlock on Cafe every single round. And while I don't personally agree with it in all cases, it actually worked, and I can see that Gridlock is better than I personally think she is, and as much as I want to put her in good, I don't think that it would be correct to, because she is objectively better than Nomad, despite having the same duty at the end of the day, so... Mozzie is situational. Mozzie has the same, like... Same idea, kind of, as Mute or Vigil, but worse than both, in a sense. Guns are worse. No way to set up sight. Gadget can maybe block off 3 doorways, so it helps the teammates more. But you don't really use the drones afterwards. Like, you can use them as a vault cam after, sure, but... Other than that, not much going for him. Guns are kind of shit. The Roni is not that good without a 1.5 array cog. Commando 9 is a bit of a annoying gun. Not really much reason to like choose a Mozzie over a Mute or a Vigil. But I think using all 3 together is the best way to use them. If you're gonna bring a Mute and a Vigil, you might as well also bring like a Mozzie, I feel like. Or alternatively, Solus would be better. Using those 4 together, though, is amazing. They will never be able to drone you, just run around. Knock is situational at this point. Well, actually, good. The reason why is it's basically the same principle as Blackbeard or IQ. 2 grenades, good gun. I think either 2-speed or 3-speed. Has an actual unique gadget. Does the same job as Ash, pretty much. Can't really go wrong, right? The only reason Sledge is lower than Ash, by the way, is just because Sledge is so slow, and like his gadget specifically isn't great. Despite him having grenades, I don't see why you would bring him over Ash when like Ash will basically bring the same util as Sledge. Like Sledge doesn't really offer much that Ash can't do. Like Verts, Ash can do. Get castles, Ash can do. Get util, Ash can do. Like there's not much that Sledge can do over Ash, so just to clear that up. Similarly, yeah, that's about it. Warden is never a bad pick, I'd say. But I don't know whether to put him as a good operator or an always good operator. He has a shield, 2 full auto guns that are pretty good. A gadget that's useful against like the more picked operators, right? Capital, Ying, Monty. He's good against those type of ops. He can have a shield or a C4. I'd say he's always good. He's never a bad pick. Like, really, like, always going to be, like, decent. Amaru is situational. I don't think Amaru's bad. Amaru is situational. Amaru is used for execute plays. Used well with Ying, Capital, Amaru. Like, those 3 are good together. Dokubi, right? Blitz. Like, you see, like, cheese strats. So I think in certain situations Amaru is good, but aside from those situations, I don't see Amaru as very useful. Like, you don't really need to traverse one side of the map to the other that often, so I don't really see a big point in it, personally. Callie is a more situational version of Thatcher. Thatcher's gonna usually be able to do the same job, but Callie has a worse gun, like primary. Her secondary is actually better than Thatcher's gun, to be fair, but does not have an ACOG. What Callie does have over Thatcher is she can pop Miras. Well, not pop them, but get rid of them. Will actually destroy the gadget, so like bandit tricking is harder because it gets rid of your bandit. Yeah, it's just that's about it. Like, I don't know. It just Callie's like a more situational version of Thatcher. Lamai is always good. I want to say I'm a big Wumai fan, but I also can't say you should always bring Wumai. I'll keep him here for now, but maybe I'll move him down. The thing with Wumai is he's got a great gun, ACOG. His gadget's generally useful against most utilities, especially with the current meta favoring Grim, Capital, Ying, right? And it's just like a simple operator. You don't really need to do much for him. And you generate all the discs, I think, like halfway through a round, so. Yana is good at this point. She got EMPs, so she's actually useful now. She used to be situational, only good for Renegades. Now she can be used as an alternative to, like, other EMP ops, for example, like Capital. But I think Capital's gadget is more universally useful than Yana's. Yana's is going to be mostly good for, like, Renegades, stuff like that. You don't really use Yana's gadget often, so I'd say she's like a slightly worse EMP op, kind of like Gridlock or, Osa or Capital. So I'm going to put her as good. Oryx. Yeah, situation. Kind of like Tachanka, same idea. You use them to set up site or off site, more likely. But he does not bring anything other than setup. And you can probably get a better operator that will be able to fill that job. Because, frankly, his gun, like, I don't know, Legion does the same job as Oryx at this point, but better. So, there's no reason to bring Oryx over, like, Legion, in my opinion. Melusi is always good. I'm gonna put, well, my Melusia is must pick, but I'll probably move them later. Melusia has a gadget that's like just generally good, kind of like Legion, but kind of like Ella actually, kind of like Ella, but also like Legion, and has a great gun. ACOG can be a 2 armor 2 speed with a horizontal grip, which is what I use. Really nothing that can go wrong there, so I don't know. It's hard for me to say that Melusia's like, Melusia's not a must pick, like you don't have to pick her, but she's always good. There you go. Zero is gonna be an interesting operator here. I don't think Zero's bad, but insanely situational. Great for teams that have active cam flank watch, so teams who like flick cams, especially for like EU teams. In Europe, it's more common for like pro league level teams to actually sit on cams on attack and watch flank manually. In NA, most teams will like bring like a nomad and just like, you know, let it chill. So I think Zero's useful for that. Plus Zero has hard bridge gadget, which is pretty much like it can be a replacement on some maps for a hard support type of role. I remember I was coaching a team and we had like, we used to attack bank bringing Zero because we would basically use Zero on basement attacks for the vault, like the main lobby hatch and the elevator hatch. And we would just put a bunch of like Zero cams in like default flank spots, which you can do from main lobby pretty easily. And then we were kind of chilling after that. Like it wasn't hard at all. You just like instant can put or like 2 or 3 Zero cams. That'll cover like most of the annoying flanks instantly. And then you get 2 hatches. Like there's just so much utility in certain situations. But he's like, you'll most of the time have a better option. But like I said, for certain attacks, he's pretty good. Aruni has to go into the same like place. Aruni's okay. Aruni's good. Aruni's good. The thing with Aruni is like, I gotta add a row, bro. I gotta add a row. It's just like, okay operators. Like, okay. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of these good operators are more like okay operators. Like Meister's okay, Aruni's okay, Iana's okay. Blackbeard's like okay. It's like one of those operators to see your team and go there, but like you're not gonna cook him. You're just gonna be like he's like that's okay. It's like okay. Like Pulse is okay. Doc is okay. Jackal's okay. Well, yeah. Nomad's okay. Like operators, you don't get mad at your teammates for playing, but you're like, whatever. Like you're not gonna argue with someone for playing it, but you know, like they're playing it because they just like the gun or something. Like it's not the best op for that situation. And I think that's kind of what that is like. I think Lion's okay now too. Kind of same thing here. Like some guns like aren't necessarily like a situational thing; they're just like very okay. Like I think like Twitch and Bravo are like okay operators. If you well, yeah, you're just like okay. Maz's like okay. Like you're not gonna get mad at someone for going Mazzy, but it's like okay, whatever. You know what I mean? These are very situational operators. I'm looking at like operators that are like not necessarily situational, but I'm like, okay, like whatever. Otherwise kind of like, okay, whatever. Like, some goes Alibi, like, there's better options, but you're not gonna get mad. Ella is okay. Callie's okay. Alright. That should be fine. Force is, honestly, in my opinion, kind of a better version of Sledge, because if you have castles you want to get rid of, you can most of the time use the floors, unless they're on, like, specific windows. But also his util is, like, just more usable. Like, I'd say floor's a good operator. But you'll probably have difficulty if they bring mute. But with attack or repick, you'll, like, kind of know what to do. I'd honestly even say that he's kind of always good. Like, you're never going to go wrong with the floors. Good gadget, decent gun, 3 flashes, 4 explosives. Kind of reminds me of, like, the comparison of, like, Nomad and Gridlock, right? It's kind of like Ashe and Flores. Like, Flores is going to do the same thing as Ashe, just not get Miras, obviously, but you can do anything. Get Verts, you know, whatever. It's like, Flores is just always going to be a pretty good operator. A Thunderbird is situational. Kind of like a more situational version of Doc. Like, if somebody goes, like, Thunderbird instead of Doc, you're just like, but why? But in certain situations, like, depending on a site setup, having a Thunderbird with shield, for example, is actually pretty good. Thunderbird has a shield, 2 guns, can have a C4, I believe, still. Maybe impacts 2. Don't quote me on that. Decent, like, a more selfless Doc, like, I don't know. I think Thunderbird's situational. I wouldn't say she's bad. Else is good. She's just like a good EMP op. I don't know, that simple. So it's like, she's useful. Not really much else to say. Thorn is okay. I mean, honestly, I even put Maestro up into good, but like low good. Thorn is just like whatever. 3, better than what's it called? What's that one trap operator I was cooking earlier? The one that like kind of doesn't bring much. Ella. Thorn is like a better version of Ella Loki, but her gun just doesn't like have that much going for it, so I'd probably like say Thorn is like the same as Ella, really. It's like whatever, alright, same shit, same idea. Azami's a must pick, absolutely. You have to bring Azami. You just have to. Azami's like picked every round. Azami's so good. Azami's so good. Like, Azami, I think, is the most picked operator. I think 100% of the rounds where, like, Azami wasn't banned, she was played. Like, Azami's nuts. So flexible, good gun, impacts. Like, I don't know, it's just, like... Azami just is, like, Valk, kind of, where, like, your mind's your limit, but there's just, like, so much you can do, and she can be used either to, like, hold spots longer, seal up breaches, annoy the enemy. Like, there's just so much you can do with Azami that there's just no reason not to bring her. Like, there's never going to be a better option for her most of the time. Some operator where, like, you need a specific idea in mind with them, and because of that, it's like, you don't want to bring them every round, but they're alright. Grim is pretty much always good. I think kind of same idea as Capitao. Just good for executes, good for finding info on things you don't want to drone or can't drone. Hard breach gadget and EMP, same as Capitao. I'd say same as Capitao realistically. Just requires a bit more like live action, like looking, right? Because like Capitao, you fire off 2 things, you don't gotta worry about it. Grim, you still gotta look at it to like cover the plant, but you'll have info, so you'll know where to look. But you'd say, like, you'd think Grim is like has a downside because of that, but Grim also has 5 gadgets, so kind of makes up for it. Solus is a must pick. Issue is like Solus is just so good. Next season's gonna be different. Maybe if I make another tier list, I'll change. But Solus is so good. The thing with Solus is Solus just like has a great gun, great secondary, impacts, can completely dismantle like prep phase droning and pre-place drones. You can't pre-place drones with a Solus on the board. And then with the Solus you can see where they're coming from basically and adapt and annoy them and pester them. and still also 3-speed. Just no downside. Fenrir, kind of same shit. I think Fenrir's a bit of like an IGL op realistically. Like you can roam obviously with Fenrir, but I think Fenrir is better on sight. You can set up sight, good guns, annoying gadget that is really hard to deal with. Really hard to deal with. That's kind of why you bring a Twitch or a Brava. Like they're situational because of that. But you can even bring them without this, obviously. But yeah, these are good operators. T-Brow's good. I won't even say always good. He used to be a must pick, but they kind of changed how he works and made it like more doable to counter him. So I think T-Brow's just like whatever. Like he's good in combination with a Cater Bandit, but by himself he's like whatever. So I think it's just a good operator. Finally, Ram is a good operator. Not always like nuts, but Ram is good. Ram will, like, for verts, Ram is, like, the best operator. But I also don't think Ram is, like, someone you want to bring every round. Ram is, like, situational, kind of, actually. Yeah. I mean, I'll take a look here. Blue Eye is always good. I wouldn't say I must pick. What do we got? 4 attackers, 4 defenders. Solid. These are always good. I can't really think of a situation they're they're gonna be a detriment to you. Like none of these are ever gonna be a detriment. Yeah, I think this like good so far here. Honestly, I still think Blackbeard's kind of like good low-key. Kind of same thing. Like I don't know. I think Blackbeard's a really good Ash alternative compared to like some of these other ops like Line. I mean, even Line's, like, kind of good. Just less selfish. I'd probably still put Rook as situational. I kind of think that, like, Doc by itself is okay, and Rook is, like, a more useless Doc, so. I'd also, I don't know, these two are kind of, like, the same. I'd both put them at the bottom. Callie's situational. Like, Callie is better than okay. But also not, like, consistently good. Like, I don't know. It's, like, so hard to, like, say. So I'd put Callie situational. Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's the tier list, boys. That's pretty much all I can say about it. Not really much else. So, let me know down below what you guys think. Obviously, you know, I think that certain things a lot of people disagree with. But I hope that my opinion and how I see it and me sharing my thought process behind it helps you to understand why. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below and see maybe, you know, somebody has some idea on an operator I didn't think of while recording this. So just please let me know, and let me know, you know, down in the comments, like and subscribe, of course, you know the deal, average YouTuber deal. But this is just a straight up, like, no bullshit, no bias, like, it's just what I think. Well, I guess bias. Just a straight up, like, meta tier list for operators in Tom Clancy's RainbowSixSiege this season. There you go. Try to always stay at good or above with the operator picks. That's like 50 ops, you know, like, should be fine. Alright. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.